y'all, my name's Megan. I'm a homeschool mom of two, and welcome to my channel. Guys, we're getting to the end of spooky season. Is it just me, or did it seem like yesterday we were starting to welcome in the spooky vibes, and now it's like time to transition away from that into gratitude, thankfulness? But I'm going to get the most out of all of my Halloween mugs before it's time to put them away. Okay, y'all, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys just an update of how our October went, what worked, what didn't, and what our plans for November are, and what we're really looking forward to in the upcoming month. I would say that October has been pretty good to us, but I really want to get into a few items that are like the nit and the grit of what worked and what didn't. Let's start with what worked, right? Let's slip in the positives before we get to any criticism, self-criticism, constructive criticism of how our month went in October. We were just really busy this month. After taking that break and kind of having a breather, things picked up really quick. My husband's birthday was this month, and then my mother-in-law came and visited us for a week. Me and my husband took a weekend trip to Michigan. Whoop, whoop. And my husband also had fall break, and it just kind of got to this point where we didn't do as much academics as maybe I would have liked for us to have done, but I know that our keister was in the woods just constantly, and we were spending a lot of time together. So I'm trying not to let that sort of type A brain part of me like taint what was really an awesome month. I am proud to report that more things worked this month than didn't. And I will start with something that has been a consistent success for our homeschool, and that is the Dart Language Arts program from Brave Writer. This month, our book has been Skunk and Badger, which is absolutely precious. And this is by Amy Timberlake. We have really enjoyed this little book, and we are almost done with it. We will finish it this week, and then we'll probably spend the first week of November wrapping up some of our language arts lessons from Skunk and Badger before we move on to November's Read Aloud. Now, with this book, I just want to show y'all some of the illustrations. I know I've shown you guys this book maybe 3 times so far this year, but it is just such a charming read, right? Like, and the illustrations are so fun, and they're so appropriate and ready for fall and like that snuggly weather. And when I was actually in Michigan with my husband, we ran across another Skunk and Badger book. So I guess this is a series, and we're just going to have to add that on to our endless to read list that we have going. But we've really enjoyed this book. Also, one of the characters, Badger, he explores his important rock work. He's like a geologist. And so I'm thinking if our interest continues, that might be something that we pick up as a unit study, maybe in the spring when we can get back out there. We have done some rock hunting in the past, but I think it would be fun to maybe read the second Skunk and Badger and then pick up on our own important rock work in the spring. Okay, something else that has worked really well for us this month and continues to do so is the online programming that we added. I think we added that maybe 2 months ago now, especially the Teach Your Monster to Read, which is an online program, and it continues to be a really helpful thing for my kiddo. She's 7 to jump on and participate with, kind of as we're waiting for, well, it's really a way to reinforce those phonics skills and maybe a little bit of coding that she might be struggling with. And what I like about the program is, sure, the kids can guess, but it does not allow them to reach mastery level through guessing. And it does show me as the parent what letter combinations or sound combinations she needs to work on. And I think that's been really helpful. Now, we are really making a big push with her reading, and I will say that is self-directed, and I'll get a little bit into that here in a minute. Something else that worked for us this month was definitely taking that mental break or mental reset. Instead of like pushing forth, putting our nose to the grindstone and making everyone miserable in terms of academic accomplishment or daily work schedules and routines, we took that break, we got into the woods, we spent time together, and it was just really charming. Now, with that being said, do you guys ever get to that point of rest where you're like, okay, enough rest, my cup is filled again, my battery is recharged, and then you just feel this like intense energy to get going again? That's where I'm at. So I'm past the point of like, all right, you guys, la-di-da, enough, let's get to it. And it is a little bit of a challenge to get everyone else back on board, but I do feel like I am the leader of our homeschool, so I'm trying to set by example and maybe give everybody a little kick in the keister to get going again. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm not very good at, I do try to take resistance as like a signal from my kiddos that something isn't working. So I'm trying to find that right balance between resistance and them just needing a little extra encouragement to get going on something. Okay, this is also something that was really cool that we got to do this month, and that was a trip to IKEA. And I did not take my kids. It was just me and my husband. We live at least 2 hours from any IKEA in any direction. So I had actually been picking up all of these amazing resources from Ode to Abode. I'll link her video of her room tour below, but the girl has got the best IKEA resources, and I just knew I needed to go. So we were able to go. I purchased a much larger storage unit for our homeschool space, as well as some small organizational items that have made a big difference for us. So one of these days I'll get around to doing like an updated homeschool space tour and show y'all all the things that we got. But it's really made a difference in being able to utilize all of the things that we've already had. We moved to this current house back in late March. And really, once summer hit and we were outside constantly, it became a struggle to force myself to go down into the basement and dig through boxes. But the last few days, like I said, I've been hit with that recharge. I've been down in the basement, like shopping through my own homeschool supplies. I keep doing air bunnies today. That's like going to be my thing, okay? But I kept shopping for homeschool supplies that we'd already had. And I've had so much fun, like rediscovering stuff that I haven't seen in a good 6 months. So it's definitely converted me to the idea of rotating the girls' works or toys more often, because I think they would get a little bit more excitement out of things that they see less frequently. I will report that our block scheduling is also continuing to work, splitting up our major subjects to an every other day routine. It's also easier to plan because I just know tomorrow's a math day, have all of the math things ready, or tomorrow is a language arts day, I need to have all of those things ready. It's made it easier for me, and also I feel like our lessons are going a little bit more in depth. We're getting a little bit more meatier on what we're doing because nobody feels rushed. Right? I don't feel rushed by the need to do and accomplish, and the kiddos don't feel rushed by mom like breathing down their neck, and giving them that space to really enjoy their lessons and kind of dive into what we're learning. Okay, the last thing that I want to report is something that has worked for us for the month of October. I am so personally excited by this one, and that is that speech therapy has just been amazing for my youngest daughter this month. PJ is almost 3, and she has an expressive speech delay as well as some social delays. An expressive speech delay means she can understand everything you tell her and follow instructions, but she struggles to express her thoughts to you through words, and sometimes actions, but we have come so far. And this month, she has really started to get verbs into her speech, as well as starting to put together 3-word phrases, which is huge for her. And I'm so excited about what we're seeing. And I just know that so soon we're going to have just this explosion of language. And I'm going to get to see all of the things that that little precious baby has been thinking this whole time. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to do a video about the resources that I use for our daily speech routine as guided by our therapist. But I also want to mention really quickly a podcast that has really been a breakthrough for me as a parent. And this was, of course, on the advice of my speech therapist. And that podcast is Teach Me to Talk by Laura Mize. Oh my word. Like just the depth of knowledge this woman has and the passion she has for speech therapy. I'm going to link her podcast below. But even if your kiddo does not have any type of speech or social delays in any way, her podcast is so informative about how to make the most out of things like reading time with toddlers or book sharing. She just has so many pragmatic suggestions of things that you can do today, right now. Nothing you have to purchase, just things that you can do for your kiddos that I have seen make a major difference for our littlest. And I am so, I don't know, I'm just really thrilled for her to see the progress that we've made. All right, you guys, let's get down to the things that did not work for our homeschool this month, because there are a few that I want to talk about. The first is that even though I enjoyed our mental break that we took, I'm getting to the point where we've gotten a little too loosey-goosey around here, and we just need to rein it in. Now, this is typical pattern for our homeschool. About, I don't know, every 6 weeks we need to take a break. That break lasts, and then I need to come along and just kind of tighten it up, right? And I definitely feel that way for the coming month of November. Even though our weekly schedule is looking great, we've really hit this balance that's working well for our family. We need to tighten up our daily routine. And as it gets colder around here, that's going to become more and more important for us. Now, we live in northern Indiana, and winter really gets gross and nasty after Christmas. And that's going to go sometimes all the way until May. I'm not kidding, y'all, okay? So if you are not from the Midwest or a northern place where you're getting nice and cold and you don't know what we're talking about, let me just say there are going to be huge swaths of time that we are in our home. And that is exasperated by the fact that I live in a pretty gosh darn little rural corner of Indiana. So we don't have just a tremendous amount of indoor resources available to us, like let's say museums or aquariums or things like that. And even then, like with just some concerns about, it makes me a little bit leery about going into those places in times of like high density. So we get put into a position where having a daily routine in our home becomes increasingly important just for our mental health, so that we have some feeling of transition of time and transition of day as we're kind of on this repeated, time loop. Now, we do work really hard to get outside. I'm trying to make sure that we have all of the right clothes and equipment to be outside as frequently as we can, but there's just going to come times that it is bleak. So I'm going to be taking November and part of December to work out really what our daily schedule will be. And one of the things I've been thinking about doing, kind of tying this back to our block scheduling, is making something that's like a daily checklist for each day of our block schedule. Not something that's like 8 a.m. do this, but 9 a.m. do this, but more or less it's almost like a mental reminder. Hey, we need to do read alouds. Hey, we need to make sure that we are doing our emotions cards with PJ, or we need to get out the fine motor skills activity today. Just something that can help us to feel productive and possibly like keep away some of those winter blues. So my Texas friends and everybody else who's in warm weather, just give us your thoughts, right? Send us your good vibes in the universe, because wintertime in the Midwest, honey, it's just tough. Next thing I want to talk about that really wasn't a victory for us this past month, but that we're working on is our sight words. So I had mentioned that my daughter had really been self-motivated to learn to read in the last few weeks, and that is absolutely true. And you want to know the reason she's really motivated to read is that she is very excited to get Animal Crossing for her Nintendo Switch. And if you've ever played Animal Crossing before, or even Nintendo games in general, then you will know that there is not a lot of spoken dialogue. A lot of it ends up being reading blurbs or reading speech bubbles. And my oldest, who's 7, I'm not particularly concerned with a sense of urgency for her to read, but she does have a bit of those ADHD tendencies where she has no drive to want to learn to read until it becomes a feeling of urgency. And the impending arrival of Animal Crossing for her Nintendo Switch has definitely filled her with a sense of urgency to learn to read. So we have these really nice, really nice sight word cards, and I have talked about these before. I still stand by them in terms of the quality of the construction of the cards. So they've got a little bit of a waterproofing. We have wiped patty marker streaks off of this a million times. I like that they have little sentences and pictures on the back. They're tough. They already have the holes punched in them, and it comes with the rings. They're really nice. My complaint is that they seem to have arbitrarily divided the cards into levels. So the red is the level 1 card here. And again, I'm linking these below. In level 1, you are given the card we, and there's also me. But then he and she are not in this deck. And that is not making logical sense to me. So we are actually going to be switching our sight cards up. I'm going to take all of the sight cards that we got with this kit, spread them out, all of the levels together, and then I'm going to reorganize them based off of vowel sounds. And this actually comes from my wonderful mother-in-law, who's a reading specialist and public school educator for over 25 years. So she has a pretty fabulous system for organizing her sight words. And like I said, that's going to go by vowel sounds. So after I get all of that organized and we get started on it, if I'm seeing success, I will definitely share some more about that with you guys, especially with her permission, because it is such a fabulous system. And if people can benefit from it, and if we benefit from it, I want everybody to know, okay? Something else that did not really work for us in October, well, it did and it didn't, and that was our unit study looking at Edgar Allan Poe. We had a wonderful time doing the poetry math puzzles. Hold on, I'm gonna go get that book and show you. So this is the book we really enjoyed, Edgar Allan Poe's Pi, and they are math puzzles that are turned into or written into classic poems. So of course, the Raven inspired the writing of Edgar Allan Poe's Pi, and there's a little riddle in the poem just about pie, right? How many slices of pie you need to serve a certain number of people. So off of Etsy, I found these printable pies. I think this was a lesson meant to teach fractions, but I just printed them and laminated them. You could just print them and put them into a page protector. And then I gave Winnie, and we had a friend over to do this with us, an expo marker so that they could practice as many times kind of slicing their pie to get the right answer. And that was a huge hit. Not only that, but then of course, like we're drawing and illustrating things on all of the pies. I don't know, it went really, really well. We also had fun looking at the Raven and talking about the biography of Edgar Allan Poe. We also did a ton of stuff with ravens, found some really cool YouTube pages on ravens. I'm going to link that below as well. What was a bit of a failure was this purchase here, which is Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Mystery and Madness by Gris Grimley. I loved this book. It was wonderful. But what was interesting was, even though the illustrations are lovely and cartoonish, they do get pretty morbid and grotesque. So these stories, you definitely need to make sure that you are pre-reading them to see if your kiddo is ready for them or not. So my daughter still loved flipping through the illustrations. There was nothing so obscene that it was like, oh, censor that. But it was definitely something that we didn't want to read aloud. So I found some other versions to go with that. And that really came from the Poetry for Young People, and I will link that book below as well. It did a really good job of bringing the appropriate level of Edgar Allan Poe to our American Ravens Edgar Allan Poe unit study. Okay, the last thing I want to discuss is something that didn't really work for us this month. I just have to find a way to get fresh about it. And that is the early elementary science education. I really enjoy this. It's by Shannon Jordan. It is nice and brief, easy to follow. All of the things suggested in terms of like equipment needed are easily available. We just haven't gotten excited about it. We haven't been filled with enthusiasm. So I'm actually going to ask you guys, does anybody use like a root and blossom science education or have some other science curriculum that they really enjoy? Winnie, my eldest, loves science. The more experiment heavy, the better. She loves all the hands-on stuff. We're really, really about that. So if you guys have any great science curriculum suggestions, send them my way. I don't have anything wrong with this at all. We may still stick with it. We may just find the energy to really tackle it and get through it. But I kind of have to work to put a little glitter and shine on this, and then just kind of want to get a curriculum where, you know, comes with the shine, right? Comes with the glitter. If that's comes with glitter and shine, that would be great. All right, as we move forward into November, we're really looking forward to two things. The first being our November Dart Read Aloud, which is The Peacemaker by Joseph Bruchac. Now, Joseph Bruchac is part Native American, and he belongs to a Native American tribe. And so kind of going into this fiction book, it's historical fiction based on the creation of the Iroquois Confederacy. But moving into a book about Native Americans from the perspective of an Indigenous person, being written by an Indigenous person is actually a lot rarer than you might think, but you're probably not surprised by that, are you? So it's not a problematic read, right? You're not getting like a colonizer's take on an Indigenous person. And we're also using another Joseph Bruchac book to talk about Thanksgiving. So that's something else we're looking forward to in November. My daughter, who's 7 now, is really starting to ask questions about the specifics of Thanksgiving, which up until this point, we've really discussed in this ambiguous way of thanks, right? And traditions and gratitude. But this year, we're really looking forward to cracking into that American history, and we're going to be using Squanto's Journey by Joseph Bruchac really as an introductory look into that. But you guys stay tuned, because I'm going to be putting out a video talking about how we're going to handle Thanksgiving as a history study, and then talking about just some resources that we're going to be using with that. So y'all check that out. I should probably be done with that video pretty soon. All right, you guys, is it perfect? No, baby, and it was never gonna be. But is it done? For today it is. So until next time, bye!